Yes.
So this gentleman rang me up. He said, General, there's a Graham school in Darjeeling, and Subhash Gising's men have come inside Kalimpong and threatened us with closure because we are not Gurkhas. And they demand that we vacate our school premises so that the Gurkhas can take it over. So I asked him, I said, he was on the board of that Graham schools. So I said, look here, how many of them are there? He said about 10 armed fellows who are Gurkhas from Darjeeling. They've threatened the principal to get the hell away from there and to close down the school and take the boys away. Can you help? He says. I say, I can certainly help. But this is just between you and me. There's nothing official about it. He said, all right, as long as you do something for us. So I had a battalion of Gurkhas nearby in that area. I instructed them to send one company of Gurkhas to the school premises and do some bayonet practice. And I told this gentleman, this English gentleman, I'm not remembering his name. They were very fond of running educational institutions and also very fond of these game sanctuaries, looking after wild animals and things like that, both he and his wife. And they'll be resident of Calcutta for about 30 years. So I said, you can tell your students to watch how we train to fight an enemy with bayonets. You know what a bayonet is? It's a half sword sort of thing stuck on your rifle. So you can, when you attack the enemy, you can shoot him, of course. And there were the days when the 303 rifle could only shoot one bullet at a time. Now we've all got machine guns. You shoot him, and then when you close with him, you've got a method of fighting with the rifle with the bayonet stuck on it to hit him on the head and then thrust the bayonet into his body. So that bayonet training means that you have human figures with straw inside, and these just making horrible noises. They come and attack that, the bayonets into them and make a big noise. It's quite frightening to watch for a civilian as to what these military people do to kill each other. So these Gurkhas made all these noises and attacked with bayonets. By the way, for your information, when we had sent United Nations troops to Congo, and the Congolese were getting beaten up by the Indian battalion that was there, what they did was they sent a whole lot of women, aggressive women, Congolese African women. And they came shouting and screaming at the troops and throwing stones at them and all that sort of thing. And the troops didn't know what to do because you're not supposed to fight with women. So the colonel in charge decided to show them some bayonet drill. So put up these straw figures there, and the Gurkhas started bayoneting all these figures. All those women ran away because they suddenly realized that without shooting a bullet, we could use the bayonet, which is stuck on the end of the rifle. So we did this bayonet training in Kalimpong. It's in Graham schools. I said, for the next 3 days, we'll do this for about an hour every day. And if those 10 armed men are still there, we'll catch hold of them and sort them out. They all ran away. Nobody was there ready to face the Gurkhas with their bayonet. So the children of Graham schools could remain where they were, and they were doing the examinations at that time. And people were very grateful that we managed to run the examination, and the principal and the school continued to function. What about Subhash Gising? He became very aggressive because he was being encouraged by the central government and the Prime Minister herself. So I rang up Jyoti Bosu and I asked him, he's the Chief Minister. I said, what are you doing about this? He said, what can I do about this? I've sent the police there, but I don't want the Gurkha police, which is already there, and the Bengali police to come into conflict. So I said, all right, I'll think of something. Now, our Southern Army commander, a gentleman by the name of Lieutenant General Dipinder Singh. He was commanding the Central Army, and he had just retired. So he's from the Gurkhas. In fact, he's from the 8th Gurkha, this Sam Manekshaw's own battalion. And when Sam Manekshaw was the army chief, that's the Field Marshal Manekshaw, this chap was his military assistant, the head of his office. And so Dipinder and I knew each other very well. And he had retired and to say goodbye to his Gurkha friends since he came from the 8th Gurkhas. They've got a regimental center in Shillong, in Meghalaya. So he happened to reach there and he rang me up to say, General Saab, badai, I am in your command in Shillong and seek your permission to be here as a retired officer for a week or so. So that I'm saying goodbye to my regimental center in Shillong. So I said, Dipinder, I have got a job for you. You should kindly do that. He says, yes, I'll do anything. Hukam suno. I said, from the regimental center, you select 10 sections of troops mounted in jeeps or slightly larger vehicles we had in those days, a Dodge weapon carrier. And I want you to go to Darjeeling and meet Subhash Desai, who was an ex-Havaldar of the Gurkha battalion, same, 8th Gurkhas. Oh, he says, I know Subhash Desai very well because I was a company commander when he was one of my Havaldars. Now he's become a political leader in Darjeeling. I said, so he's creating a problem there. And what he's done is, he has asked all families to vacate their homes in Darjeeling on the threat that if you don't vacate your home and allow my Gurkha National Front people to occupy these homes, you get out, otherwise I'll burn your houses. So with that, a large amount of civil families left their homes and ran away from there. Now among these civilian families were a large number of military families. Now their husbands were fighting in Ladakh or wherever they were, Gurkha people. And these wives of Jawans and JCOs, since they belonged to Darjeeling, they had their homes there, the children going to school. They ran away from there, crossed the Rangit River to the north of Darjeeling district into Sikkim. Now I knew the chief minister of Sikkim very well, because when I was commanding the division in Sikkim as a major general, there was a person called Nar Bahadur Bhandari, who had become the Congress chief minister. He later parted company with the Congress and tried to have another party when he was chief minister, but he lost his election and then a Congress enthusiast became the chief minister after it. But he was still the chief minister of Sikkim. He rang me up, Nar Bahadur. He said, General Saab, Nar Bahadur bol raha hu. I said, hello, Nar Bahadur, how nice to hear you. He said, aapke sare military family jo daud ke aaye, who have run away from Darjeeling, they've come into Sikkim, into my territory, but I am looking after them in such and such area. I've given them shelter and I'm giving them food and protection. So I've done something for you and your arm. I said, thank you. We remember that. And we will soon do something for you also, whenever you want. So I told Dipinder, I said, all our military families have run away from there. So please intercede with Subhash Desai to cut out this business of threatening our military families. Because if he doesn't, I am going to send canteen stores and other stores into Darjeeling from the army, each with a platoon of infantry. And any member of the Gurkha National Front we see who is trying to prevent us from looking after our families and bringing them back and giving them succor, we shall shoot them dead. But before I do that, I intervene in civilian politics and and eliminate all these Gurkha National Front people. I asked Dipinder, I said, you go there and intercede with them and say, call it off, fool chap. He said, yes, I'll do that. So he took about 6 or 7 vehicles, all armed to the teeth, from his regimental center, drove from Shillong to Darjeeling, sent a message to Subhash Kising that I am coming to meet you. Subhash Kising had been his Havaldar when this chap was the company commander, as a major. So they met, and he conveyed my message to Subhash Kising. And within 24 hours, the agitation stopped. And the military families were allowed to come back and reside in their homes. And we sent canteen stores and other things and victuals and all that sort of thing to them to show them, to restore their confidence. So this was the intervention in the local politics started by Indira Gandhi, I would say. I told you earlier that Indira Gandhi and Jyoti Basu were good friends. I told you when she wanted to see Kanchenjunga in the early morning's sunrise, it is he who held her hand and took her there. Friendship of human beings amongst the politicians is there. But when they are on opposite sides as far as the politics is concerned, then they go for each other's throat, as one might say. Anyway, I think I got on a very good net with so I had a very good net with the Bengal government after this. There's another incident that takes place which I want to talk about. I got intelligence information that a lot of people are being killed every day, about 8 or 9 people per day in Tripura. So I sent some intelligence agents into Tripura to find out. And I found that the chief minister of Sikkim was a communist person. What happened?
I don't know. We lost and it came back again.
Are you there?
Yeah. I'm there and it is recording.
Okay.
Just went and came back.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I think your Zoom was interfering.
Yeah, possibly.
So I sent some intelligence agents to Tripura to find out what's happening. He said there's an election coming up. And in the villages and everywhere, there were Congress people and communist people giving lectures to the people to vote the way they wanted. But the chief minister, who was I just was there, Nirupam Chakraborty, a chap called Nirupam Chakraborty. Now he's a communist leader, and he's a good administrator in Tripura. Tripura and Kerala and West Bengal were the 3 communist states of India at that time. So, in the remote villages, he had sent his communist goons to say that anybody who does not vote communist will be killed. So we found about 8 or 9 people per day being killed in Tripura. Now I got concerned with that because Tripura is a border state with Bangladesh. At that time, our relations with Bangladesh were not that good because Begum Zia was in charge. So I didn't want political problems of this nature on a border state because then that means that things might blow up and then people cross borders and they invite people from Bangladesh to come across and help them and all that sort of nonsense goes on. I took a dim view of this. So I sent a lot of advices to Nirupam Chakraborty as the chief minister to say, to lay off, don't kill people just because they don't want to vote for you. So he said, we are doing nothing of the sort. So I was in 2 minds whether he's doing it or not doing it. Because, Tripura, barring Agartala itself, is a big town. a lot of remote hill areas with a lot of villages, and difficult to, they're not got enough communication to visit everybody. So there was a police chief, PSF, police chief of Calcutta. And I kept, as I told you earlier, one of my principles has been ever since I became a brigadier in Mizoram that we have to have a very good relationship between all government officials, whether they are police or armed police or BSF or CRPF, or they are administrators like deputy commissioners and SDMs and so on, bureaucrats, uh, or they are civil engineers or railway engineers or whatever they are. So to do this, I had requested all my commanders to have parties and invite these people and give them a good pot of whiskey, good dinners and social activities, so that came to know the names and people personally, and they came to know us. The result of this is that instead of all the government services being separately doing their work, you encourage people to get together and talk to each other at the lowest level, especially between intelligence and us, because then we get live actionable intelligence on the spot rather than waiting for it to come down from army headquarters. So I was on a very good net with all these police officials, and I came to know that the Director General BSF, who was a very fine gentleman, was posted as to Tripura as the Director General Police. So I invited him to my home and we gave him a good dinner and all that sort of things, Rupi and I, he and his wife. And I wished him well for his going to Tripura. And I said to him that this is the sort of intelligence I am receiving, that the chief minister is killing 8 or 9 people every day. That's not acceptable. So he says, yes, I've got some intelligence myself, but I don't know if it is true or not, because when we approached the chief minister, he says, I'm not doing. So I said, well, you're going there, and I'll give you 2 or 3 weeks there to find out what's the truth. And after that, I'll make a visit to Agartala. I'll stay in the MES inspection bungalow at Agartala. And then I want you to come and tell me whether it's true or false. Then I'll take my act. He said, okay, let me see, let me reach there. So he reached there, and after 2 or 3 weeks, made a contact. One of my staff contacted him. He said, I'm not prepared to speak on this subject because, after all, I'm the DG police and my future depends on my confidential reports written by the chief minister, and I'm not going to spoil that issue. So I made a visit to Agartala. I got my staff to contact this gentleman and said, you are not going to meet me officially, but at 8 o'clock in the morning tomorrow, I'll be walking in such and such area outside Agartala for my morning walk. I request you also come for a morning walk, and we'll happen to bump into each other by chance. So he agreed with that, and he came for a walk, and I came for a walk. And I said, you don't have to say anything. I know your position. Just nod your head, because it is so, or shake your head the other way and say it is not. So he nodded his head 2 or 3 times. He said, General, I haven't spoken, but he nodded his head. So I came to know that my intelligence reports were correct. So I wanted to see the chief minister. So I got an appointment with him. He's very happy to see me. Then he had a couple of staff officers with him, and I had a staff officer with him. So I said, Chief Minister, you and I need to talk one-to-one. So let's get rid of all these staff officers, and then we can talk as one human being to another human being. He said, all right. So his staff went away and my staff went away. Then I said, this is what I'm hearing about. You're killing this guy. He said, General, where did you get this information? I said, I've got very good intelligence. He said, supposing I say it's not true. I said, then I don't believe you. Because if it's not true, then who is killing these 8 or 9 people every day? And they're all people who apparently are not communists. So he says, you speak very well. We can discuss these matters after the election. The election was coming up in another week or so. He said, after the election, we'll discuss this issue. You speak well. I said, Mr. Chakraborty, it's not going to work that way. I'm going to get a whole division of troops into Tripura, and they'll spread to every village in Tripura. And if we find anybody knocking somebody up, We are going to hang that chap on the nearest tree. And we start with the SP of police, who is in charge of the district, and the police Thanedar Saab in, each police Thanedar there in Tripura looks after about 10 or 15 villages. So we will bound that. So we are not allowed. He said, General, you speak very well, but you have no jurisdiction here. You're just an army officer. And you're not going to be allowed to interfere in the politics of this place. I said, no, I'm not interfering, but I don't like Indians getting killed. Unless you tell me a chief minister to who killing them and you stop. So we parted as not very good friends. And the governor of Northeast, I mean Nagaland, Mizoram and Tripura was General Krishna Rao, who had been a chief of the Indian Army and who was a good friend of mine because he had invited to go to Yugoslavia with him when he was the chief. And then he invited me to come and join the military operations directorate when I had no right to be there. He was now the governor of Nagaland, Mizoram, and Tripura. I rang him up. I said, General, this is what I'm hearing. He said, you're right. I'm hearing the same thing. But I'm only a governor. What am I supposed to do about it? Because the chief minister is the boss. I said, I want to request the government or central government of India to make the Armed Forces Special Powers Act applicable to Tripura so that I can send the army in there. Now, the Armed Forces Special Powers Act is normally requested by the concerned state when they cannot control law and order through the police, and they request for the army to come there to control law and order, and we get for that short period of time police powers of arrest. Otherwise, the army has no power of arrest. So we get those police powers. This Armed Force Special Powers Act is a lot of agitation of removing it. Yes, it should be removed. But the state government itself requests for it. It is normally requested in Nagaland, it is requested for in Manipur, in certain districts of Assam. And the reason is that the chief ministers can't control the law and order and nor can the police. So they ask for the military assistance. And now there is an agitation to remove the Armed Forces Special Powers Act. But the central government says if there is an agitation to remove it, then the chief ministers are the ones who have to not ask for it. This is the situation. So anyway, since the governor had requested, the central government under Rajiv Gandhi ordered the Armed Forces Special Powers Act to be applicable to Tripura because 9 people have been killed every year. So I moved 2 brigades from Nagaland division. There was a Sardaji commanding Nagaland division, a good officer. I said, you and 2 brigades land up in Tripura. And I sent another brigade from Mizoram because the trouble in Mizoram had settled down. In fact, Chief Minister Lal Denga had been made the chief general. He was the boss of the underground. I told you this story. It's the one example in the whole world, I would say, of a terrorist state being converted to a normal state and the head of the terrorism being made the chief minister. He didn't last long because he did about 2 years. And when he thought he was such a big boss because people loved him, but when the election came, he was thrown out after 2 years. So we got about 2.5 brigades into Tripura. And I ordered that at least one section or a platoon of infantry will go to every single village in the next 2 days. They'll get hold of the Gaumbura, it's a chap in charge of the village, and they'll get hold of the police, Thanedar Sahab, who controls about 10-15 villages. Very difficult terrain, full of bamboo jungles and full of hilly and mountainous areas. Not easy to move around it. But our patrol leaders will meet these people and say, now look, we are here. If there is a single death from today in your village, then the head of the village and the head of the police have to go to pakado you and play hell with you in the jungle. We are also good terrorists. So this is not a legal method of functioning at all. But when this illegality being done in the land, we have to, I think, use illegal means to prevent it. As the Supreme Court will not agree with what I'm saying, because law is a bountiful law, and the law always wants to assist those who are receiving the hard end of the government stick, shall I call it. But when you're dealing with terrorists, when you're dealing with insurgency, then law of the land doesn't function. They don't follow any law. And how can you? It's like going into a boxing match with an opponent who's hitting you like hell, and you're hitting you below the belt, with you one hand tied behind, and you're not allowed to hit him below the belt. So, as a simple human being, I would say that doesn't work. So, we have to do certain methods. This is like one of them. We led it up there in a village. We said, should there be a death in this village, we'll catch off the head of the village and the Thanedar Sahib, and we'll hang you from the latest tree upside down and beat you up. With result, within 24 hours, there were no killings. As luck would have it, Nirupam Chakraborty lost the election that time. Well, that's part of the game. People voted freely. And I must tell you, Nivedita, I happened to go there. And anywhere in the whole of Tripura, you deep village in the interior, anywhere, if they saw a military man, they all start clapping. So when you are dealing with nasty politics, no matter whether it's communist or Congress or whoever, the people are very fed up. They don't know what to do. And if they think you're a savior because you've saved their lives, they give you a good ovation. Very good to see that. So this is one incident that I wanted to tell you about. I learned a lot of lessons here. That number one, all government servants, the bureaucrats, the deputy commissioners, when they know you're doing something right, even if it is being in slightly illegal way, shall I call it, they support. They don't report you, they look out. They all support. They are not politicians, but they're afraid of their bosses, and then if somebody should report, so they can't speak. But if you've acted correctly, whether it's police or BSF or CRPF, or whether it's the bureaucrats, DCs, SPM, they all smile and say, go ahead. That lesson was used by me again and again in this country. I'll give more of it when I'm further in this story. This is one incident there. Now, as an army commander, since I had been a brigadier in Mizoram in 1973, 74, and early 75, and I had made a lot of friends, I enjoyed the Mizo dances. I know all the dances even now. Some of the songs, for instance, the Hua Long and the this and that. But now I was army commander. And Mr. Lalding, the terrorist leader whom I was chasing when I was a brigadier, was now the chief minister. So the Assam Rifles, we had a battalion, 2 battalions there. Rest of the army had moved out because there was peace. So this Assam Rifles colonel rang me up when I was the army commander, said that, why don't you come and visit us? Our Assam Rifles, there were 4 battalions of Assam Rifles. 4 battalions of Assam Rifles. You please come to Aizawl. We'll lay on a big party for you. We'll bring all those boys and girls who do the dances and you can join them. Give us a couple of days, or maybe a night, for a pleasurable visit. And this time bring your wife because she doesn't know this. When I was a brigadier, wives are not allowed. So I said, fine. So we took a helicopter, we landed in Aizawl, and this gentleman was receiving us. That night, we had to have a party in the Assam Rifles headquarters, where he invited all these boys and girls to do some Mizo dances and Mizo singing. And I told Surupi, I said, this is something delightful. You'll really enjoy it because the tribals are full of joy. The tribal laws are so simple. There's no law. I mean, there's no judiciary and there's no lawyers. You're settled by, if anybody's hurt for something, you're settled by so much cash, or so many pigs, or so many goats, whatever it is. Monetary. Do that and it's all forgiven and forgotten. Even if you do a murder. I said, you'll enjoy this because they're delightful people. And India is so lucky to have such tribal. They're all Christian, by the way. They sing very well. Every man has a guitar, and the girls and boys sing very well. So then, having been received, he received me at the airport. He said, "You know, Mr. Laldenga, the chief minister, he came to know that you're coming. He was in Delhi because he was some consultations at Delhi. He's taken a plane. He's come back. Was supposed to sing for me." So she said, "So many years in the jungle." And I was asking them how's their health. And both she and he said we had a lot of difficult times. We got malaria, we got this, we got that, but we managed to survive. Then I asked him, I said, "Mr. Lalteka, when I was the brigadier here, I chased all over this Mizoram, trying to look under every tree and bush to find you and capture you, but I couldn't find you." He said, "General, I'd gone to London when you were here. But I am grateful for what you did here because you dealt with our insurgents in a very humanitarian way." I said, "Thank you." And then his son-in-law, as I explained, I saved him by allowing the chief minister to send a man with medicines into the jungle. And he was also there. He, he had married Lal Tenga's daughter. So they were all very friendly. Then they were doing the Hua Long dance. Now the Hua Long dance, it goes hoo hoo hoo, hoo hoo hoo, the big line of boys and girls, one behind the other, as they advance in a line. And the front person has got a bamboo plate, let's call it, on which is a coconut. So they go all around the property and eventually come to the chief man, that Mr. Laldenga was the chief minister, and then give him this coconut. So Laldenga asked me, he said, "General, do you know what dance this is?" I said, "It's the Hua Long." He said, "You know the reason why there is a coconut on that bamboo plate?" I said, "Yes." He said, "What is it?" I said, "This is the head. They're all headhunters. This is the head of the neighboring village who they were fighting. They've cut off the head. They brought it in a bamboo plate to give it to their chief. So I said, they'll come round and give it to you, you're the chief." So when they came around, instead of going to Laldenga sitting on my left, I was on his right. They came and offered the head to me. So I said, "Mr. Laldenga, this coconut and this head is supposed to go to you. Why are they standing in front of me?" He said, "General, this is for you because you're the boss. And that coconut is my head. Please accept." I said, "But why do you say that? I couldn't even catch you in the jungle because you had gone away to London." He said, "No. When you chased around in Mizoram, I had to leave Mizoram. And you treated my people well. If this head is my head, given to you. Please accept." So I accepted the head. My wife was very impressed by the way. That was the friendliness of the ex-head of the underground with me. And it's a delightful couple. I was sad to see. He administered well, but politically, all sorts of other pushes and pulls take place. And two years later, when he had been chief minister for a couple of years, he thought he'll be elected easily because people loved him. But they went and elected somebody else. Mr. Lalthan Hola became the chief minister. And Mr. Lalthan realized that being the head of the underground doesn't mean that the people love you. They don't. They don't like people with guns. Nobody likes people with guns. So that is Mizoram. It was a delight to go there and meet all those young boys and girls and join them in their dancing and in their singing. I don't know if you've been to these tribal areas. I took Surupi to a distant area of Nagaland. It's a Naga post. No, the Nagaland is getting very sophisticated, especially now. It's very just like you and me. We've lost a lot of beautiful culture of the ancient tribals. But there was one post when I was army commander, which was very far away on the Burmese border, very difficult terrain. We had a company of Jats over there, and that is a post I had not visited. So, in a helicopter, we landed there. They prepared a helipad for me, and we landed there. Now, these Nagas were really Nanga Nagas. I mean, their private parts were just covered by a piece of cloth hanging down. That's all. And they had, they are headhunters. So after they cut off the head of the enemy, they had a technique of shrinking the skull. The skull is about that big. They shrink it to 1/3 size. Then they hang these skulls around the entrance to their hut. And many of them wear the skulls like a necklace around their neck. So the person who's killed the maximum has all their skulls around his neck or around his hut. If a young blood, let's call him warrior, has killed person, he has only one skull. But the chief has about 20 skulls. And his skulls are, some of them around his neck and some of them, then all shrunk to 1/3 the size. Somebody asked me, what's the technique of shrinking a human skull? I said, that the Nagas know, we don't know. They put into some liquids and things and all that, and that the whole skull shrinks so that it is manageable to be decorated outside the entrance hut. So we were dancing, and all the Naga chaps, they liked Surupi, so they all started dancing with her. And those Naga women were wanting to dance with me. Oh, somebody's got something through the nose and something hanging on the ears and all that sort of thing. So anyway, we danced with them. The music being played by some pipers of the infantry company that was there. And one of the men of the infantry company knew their dialect. Their dialect is different to other languages and other dialects in the rest of Nagaland. So talk to them. It's so important to learn the dialects of the people you are dealing with. So he was the interpreter. And I asked their chief as to what they thought of this interpreter. He said, he's okay. We'll accept him. He won't take his skull. So that was it. And a very friendly chap. So, but the result, when we changed that unit and some other unit, as you know, the army, we keep changing our unit. We made sure that that gentleman was kept. He's a Havaldar, and we promoted him to a JCO because he knew the local dialects and he could translate. It's very important to learn the language of people so that you can converse with them and they appreciate that. They're right on the border of Burma. They cross the border anytime. So the borders between Burma and India are not well maintained. Neither Burmese army can do it, nor can we. These are jungles, and borders are artificial. Somebody's drawn a line. That's it. So these tribals are concerned. They've got relatives on the other side. They've got relatives on this side. They move up and down as per their wish. Cannot control it. So it's an interesting scene. We are in good touch with the Burmese army. The Burmese army is very, very ruthless. Very ruthless. They go and kill everybody without even asking about your name. In our case, you capture somebody, there's a court case and all that, and he may do a prison sentence or something, and he's that all. But those guys shoot you first and talk later. So none of them like, when the Burmese army is on deputation near their border, they all run onto the Indian side. The Naga underground is there, of course. We have made a battalion of infantry from the Nagas, the Seema Nagas. It's part of the command regiment. And 21 Naga. And they were very happy to use the uniform. And one of the leaders, Seema. Seema is one of the tribes of Nagaland, very, very martial tribe. Was made the lieutenant colonel, given the rank, to command this battalion. And this battalion done very well for us. They are very good soldiers. And they know tracking. They can go anywhere in the jungle. They know how to follow a trail. And we used the Naga battalion later, much after my retirement, in the Kargil War. In the Kargil War,